Amazing what happens to the body and mind of those who live without sex. Let's rip off the band-aid. Sex is one of the most powerful biological drives on the planet, and when people go without it, whether by choice, circumstance, or discipline, the body doesn't just shrug its shoulders and say, "Cool, let's play Sudoku instead." Nope. It launches a full-scale physical, mental, and even spiritual transformation that can make you sharper, crankier, calmer, more focused, or sometimes a walking volcano of repressed energy ready to erupt at the slightest touch. Here's the shocking truth. Living without sex doesn't only change your bedroom activities, it rewires your brain, your hormones, and even how you see yourself in the mirror. What if I told you some of the greatest minds in history, monks, warriors, inventors, philosophers, practiced long stretches of celibacy to fuel their focus and creativity? But also that your body secretly whispers, "Hey, maybe this isn't such a great idea," by sabotaging your mood, sleep, and cravings. That's where things get juicy. First, the brain. Scientists say sex is like the brain's instant jackpot. Dopamine floods the system, oxytocin bonds you with your partner, and serotonin sprinkles you with calm. Without it, the brain shifts into survival mode. Imagine a starving lion pacing its cage. It becomes hyper-aware of opportunities. When you live without sex, your dopamine pathways begin craving other sources of reward. Some people channel it into business, gym gains, or obsessive hobbies. Others, straight into frustration and restless energy. It's not random, it's biology doing push-ups in the background. But here's where it gets fascinating. Long-term abstinence actually rewires brain circuitry. Neuroplasticity kicks in. The very circuits once addicted to pleasure-seeking start strengthening focus and discipline. In other words, living without sex can make you more resilient, more determined, and oddly enough, more magnetic to others. Why? Because restraint looks like power, and power is attractive. Now, the body. This is where the fireworks begin. Testosterone, for example, doesn't just regulate sex drive. It fuels muscle growth, motivation, and even confidence. Studies show men who abstain for several days get a temporary testosterone spike, as if the body is saying, "Let's store up the arsenal for when the gates finally open." But if abstinence stretches too long, hormone levels may stabilize or even dip, creating fatigue, mood swings, or decreased drive. In women, estrogen and progesterone fluctuate with similar intensity, affecting energy, skin glow, and mood balance. Translation: no sex equals body chemistry in constant negotiation. And then there's the immune system. Believe it or not, sex boosts immunity. People who are active produce more immunoglobulin A, a natural shield against infection. Without sex, some of that defense weakens. But here's the plot twist. Abstinence can also reduce exposure to stress, infections, or relationship drama, meaning the immune system doesn't get overworked. It's like losing one guard but firing the troublemakers who keep breaking into your house. Psychologically, the effects are even more surprising. Without sex, some people experience clarity. Think monks in meditation, athletes in peak training, or soldiers before battle. Energy that would normally scatter into pleasure-seeking is redirected into focus and mastery. That's why ancient traditions praised celibacy as a superpower. But let's be real, modern humans aren't monks sitting in caves. Without healthy outlets, abstinence can trigger anxiety, irritability, and even insomnia. Sleep suffers because oxytocin, the calm cuddle hormone, isn't flowing to relax you. Cue tossing, turning, and waking up ready to fight your pillow. But here's the paradox. Over time, the body adapts. The mind finds new ways to create pleasure through learning, food, exercise, spirituality, or achievement. Dopamine no longer depends on intimacy. It starts rewarding you for goals, progress, and discipline. Suddenly, you're more motivated to crush deadlines, climb mountains, or break gym records. That's why some high performers claim abstinence unlocks hidden reserves of energy. It's not magic, it's the nervous system being hacked by discipline. Let's talk relationships. Living without sex while in a relationship is like driving a Ferrari but never putting gas in it. Tension builds. Communication becomes critical because the body notices the absence. Couples may either strengthen emotional intimacy or crumble under frustration. The deciding factor, whether the abstinence feels chosen and purposeful or forced and resentful. Chosen restraint can deepen bonds, while imposed restraint can crack them apart like glass under pressure. But here's a kicker nobody tells you. Abstinence doesn't kill attraction, it amplifies it. The longer you go without, the more hyper-aware your senses become. The brain sharpens its radar for attraction cues, scents, body language, subtle touches. Suddenly, what used to feel normal now feels electric. That's why people who abstain for long periods often describe returning to intimacy as more intense, more explosive, more consuming. Biology builds the suspense like a Netflix cliffhanger, and when the payoff comes, it's wild. Of course, there are myths. Some say abstinence makes you stronger forever. Others claim it's toxic and dangerous. The truth, it's a double-edged sword. In moderation, abstinence can boost self-control, redirect energy, and sharpen focus. But chronic deprivation without outlets can harm mood, health, and relationships. The deciding factor isn't abstinence itself, but how the person channels the energy. Let's dig deeper into hidden changes. Did you know living without sex alters stress response? Normally, oxytocin lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. Without intimacy, cortisol can stay elevated longer, making you more reactive to daily chaos, traffic jams, work emails, loud neighbors. This is why some abstinent people report shorter tempers and quicker frustration. But here's the twist. If they learn to channel that stress into meditation, breathwork, or physical training, cortisol stabilizes and their resilience skyrockets. Another overlooked change: creativity. Suppressed sexual energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. Psychologists call this sublimation, where raw instinct is redirected into art, invention, or leadership. Think Nikola Tesla, who famously abstained to fuel his obsession with discovery. Whether you buy into his eccentricity or not, there's no denying that unspent energy often finds another outlet. So the question becomes, will abstinence make you a genius or just cranky with too many unfinished doodles in your notebook? And let's not forget the body's secret rebellion: dreams. When the body can't get intimacy in waking life, it often compensates with vivid dreams, sometimes erotic, sometimes strange, sometimes both. That's biology's way of balancing pressure, like a safety valve. Ignore it long enough, and your subconscious might start writing its own R-rated movie scripts at night without your permission. One more curveball: living without sex changes your sense of identity. For some, it creates pride, a sense of control over primal urges. For others, it breeds insecurity, questioning desirability or self-worth. Both reactions are valid, and both reveal how deeply sex is tied to human psychology. Strip it away and you don't just change hormones, you challenge self-image, confidence, and even spiritual beliefs. So what actually happens to those who live without sex? The short answer: everything. The body recalibrates hormones, the mind rewires focus, the immune system adjusts, attraction intensifies, and identity shifts. Some thrive, some struggle, some discover a new level of power they never imagined. The truth isn't simple. It's raw, complex, and electrifying, and the longer it lasts, the stranger the transformations become.